Hi, welcome to this week's edition of Vineyard Spotlight. I'm your host, Miranda Post with the O'Hanlon Group, and today I'm with Tom Soldini, the team leader for the Martha's Vineyard branch of SCORE. Tom, thank you so much for being here with us today. We're so happy to have you. What is SCORE, and can you tell us a little bit about your organization?
Well, hi, Miranda. Thanks very much for having me here. So SCORE is a nationwide volunteer organization that's dedicated to helping small businesses grow and thrive. Mm-hmm. We're a bunch of people with all kinds of different business experiences, and we work with small businesses through mentoring and through programs to help educate people who want to start a small business, people who have a business and have a question, a challenge, or a growth opportunity. And we even work with people who have had a business for a while, but they're ready to start thinking about exiting that business for whatever reason. And we kind of help people solve their business problems based on the background that we've had in our careers.
Wonderful. And can you tell us about the connection that SCORE has to the Vineyard?
Yeah, well, we've been on the Vineyard, I guess about 30 years now, but the connection goes back a little bit further. SCORE was originally started in the 1960s. It was a time of tremendous volunteerism in the country. The Peace Corps was started in those days, for example, taking kids and sending them to foreign countries to help develop people there. Mm-hmm. And someone in the Small Business Administration in the federal government had the brilliant idea of taking retired business executives in their communities and helping people in the community start their own businesses, kind of the way the Peace Corps does, but do it in your own community. Mm-hmm. And thus was born the Service Corps of Retired Executives. Now the retired executives thing, that went away 10 years later. We're not all retired now. Nobody's really retired now, right? But the title stuck, and we're still called SCORE. And an interesting connection to the Vineyard, thanks for asking about that, is that I was meeting a Vineyard client of mine for the first time a few years ago, and my first question is always, well, how did you hear about SCORE? And she said, I think my father started SCORE. Oh. It turns out he was the director of the SBA at the time, and lo and behold, yeah, he did start SCORE, and 50, 60 years later, SCORE was coming back to help his daughter with her business here on the island.
Wow, full circle story.
Exactly.
I love that. That is super awesome. Tom, can you tell us a little bit about you and your background, professional and a little personal, if you'd like?
Sure. My background is in the telecom and IT businesses, not so much small business, but very big corporations. I spent most of my career building networks, cell phone networks, fiber optic networks for various companies. In the US, I spent a lot of time outside the United States. I lived in Hong Kong and in Tokyo for a few years. Spent a lot of time working in Europe as well. And then I did a lot of different things. I'm kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. I did some marketing and market development. I did sales. I did a lot of operations, the actual building and running and supporting of our clients' networks. And then about 10 years ago, I retired. That's when we moved to the Vineyard. I shouldn't say I retired. I kind of left the corporate world and started a second career as a consultant back into that IT and telecom space. And I'm still doing that part-time. But I've started volunteering for SCORE about 5 years ago. And it's kind of like consulting, but this is my way of giving back to the community.
That's great. And what brought you to the Vineyard originally?
Oh, we started vacationing here, I guess about 30 years ago. That was the time when before I moved to Asia, when I was traveling to Asia nonstop. And we came here from a vacation so I wouldn't have to be in a hotel and get on an airplane again. And like so many people here, once we came here, it just stuck.
I know that. I know all about that. That's awesome. And so what services do you offer to your clients? Do you call them clients?
Yeah, we do call them clients.
Okay.
That may sound a little strange given that, and I didn't mention this, but all of our services, since we're volunteers, all of our services are for free.
Oh, wow.
And everything we do is absolutely confidential. So it's a little bit like a consulting firm. And by the way, there are 9 of us here on the island. We're part of a larger organization that covers the Cape and the islands, and altogether there are 40 or 50 of us. Nationwide, there are 10,000 SCORE volunteers.
Wow.
So we have expertise in just about any kind of a field that you could imagine. The specific things that we do, most of what we do is kind of one-on-one mentoring. You know, maybe somebody wants to start a business, they've got an idea, but they need some information about how do you actually create a business legally, right? Or how do you develop a business plan? And we'll work with them to do that. And that's the vast majority of what we do. That's about, we do on average about 50 clients on the Vineyard a year. We work with them in that way. We also do educational programs. We've worked through ASMV. We've worked with the Martha's Vineyard Builders Association, excuse me. We've even done some programs for kids in the Edgartown school to set up a little entrepreneurial program for 8th graders, which was kind of neat.
That's great.
And we work with the Chamber of Commerce heavily. They're a very close partner. We helped them with the Perfect Pitch contest that they just had back in March. Right. Coaching the candidates and helping them prepare their pitches and helping organize the thing a little bit. The third thing we do is we do a lot of webinars. And on our website, we have a list of webinars that have been done locally here in Massachusetts, as well as nationwide, covering just about any aspect of business that you can imagine. And so that's all accessible, not only to our clients, but to anybody, really. It's just out there on the website. So that's kind of the range of what we do.
Wow, that's fascinating. That's super interesting that you are able to deliver this wealth of knowledge and provide all this value to the community, and it's a free resource.
Yeah, well, it's, as I said, you know, we're volunteers. This is our way of giving back to the community, and most of us are kind of business junkies. We just love to have the conversations about it. As I said, I spent my whole career in a large organization, and now I get to meet entrepreneurs and in fields that I've never experienced. I may not know their business, but I know a lot about general business, and I can ask them questions that can draw their knowledge out and help them apply it. And so it's a blast.
That's great. Can you give us an example of one of the businesses locally that you've helped? You don't have to give a name or anything like that, but just so that we have an example. Yeah,
well, maybe rather than talk about a specific business, I can just talk about some of the fields. And as you might expect on Martha's Vineyard, we have a lot of clients who are in the food service business, especially in the last couple of years after the pandemic when the restaurants shut down for a while. A lot of the people in that business were trying to figure out, okay, what's next? What do I do?
Yes.
And so we've worked with chefs and other food services people, maybe to start another restaurant, maybe to do a catering service or create a food product. So that's a very common one. And again, we'll help them with business plans, we'll help them with marketing strategy, we'll help them with some of the legal structure. How do you get your business structured? We work with a lot of landscapers. We work with some contractors. We could work with contractors some more. I'd like to see that business develop. And so kind of the businesses that are really common here on the Vineyard, those are the kinds of clients that you see.
This is such great information. So Tom, can you share with us a little bit about what's next for your organization, for SCORE as a whole, and here on Martha's Vineyard as well?
Sure, I'd love to. So probably the most important change, it's not really quite new now, but we're still getting used to it and we're still getting the benefits, is the use of video conferencing. Up until maybe 3 years ago, most of what we did was all face-to-face, and that's great, but with a small group and a small community like the island, we had a limited set of skills that we could share, and if we had to reach out beyond our skill set, we had to physically bring people here. With video conferencing and everybody being comfortable now using it, it's much easier to reach out to those 10,000 colleagues we have all around the country to tap into a specific experience base or a specific skill set. For example, a year or two ago, I had a client who was thinking about buying and operating a winery. The winery wasn't here on the Vineyard, but the client was. And he wanted some help about the operation side, some information about the operation side. I was able to find someone in California who had that experience and get them connected up and pass on some of that information.
That's awesome.
The other cool thing about video conferencing is it's just much more efficient. Our clients, especially this time of the year, they're just getting ready to launch the business for the summer. They're working 120 hours a week. You know, they don't want to schlep all the way down from down island from, let's say, Aquina to meet up with us down here somewhere. You know, we can save them an hour of travel by just jumping onto a video call and just having that conversation and making it much, much more efficient. So that's really huge, and it's just kind of transformed the way we're doing business. And we can tap into all these webinars too, now that people have grown comfortable with doing online webinars rather than face-to-face workshops.
You have this library, this wealth of knowledge, and you can just refer people to those topics.
Right, exactly. You know, for the client, it's easy. They can do it when they want, not when it's scheduled.
Exactly.
For us, it's really efficient. We only have to present it once and video it, and it's there forever. So it's fantastic. So that's kind of the really big thing. You know, as we look a little further ahead, for the Vineyard specifically, there's a couple of things that we're really interested in pursuing. One is there are still some communities here that we could probably serve a little better than we do. Top of that list is the Brazilian community.
Right.
When you think about it, it's a group of people who are largely recent immigrants. They're people who are in a whole lot of different businesses. They're very good at what they do, but they may not have much experience with U.S. laws, the way business is conducted, with the connections they need to make here on the island to get certain services for their business. So it's a natural community for what we do at SCORE. We've worked with some Brazilian clients before, but not very many considering the opportunity here. A really neat thing is one of our Brazilian clients has just very recently offered to help us figure out how to get more connected into that community, figure out how to bridge some of the cultural and language gaps. So we're going to put some emphasis on starting to work into that community and try to build the business there and help serve them better.
Tom, that's super awesome how your organization and all the volunteers are connecting themselves to the community and trying to be this wealth of resource. It's just very valuable.
Well, yeah, and Miranda, that's actually the other kind of new thing that we're working on here is connecting the community. So I'm glad you raised that. We've started to realize that, yeah, we've got some experience and some wisdom perhaps to pass on to our clients, but our clients have wisdom to pass on to each other.
Right.
And after they've gone through the SCORE experience, most of them are really willing and excited about helping others businesses. So we're starting to bring some of our former clients in to help new clients where they have a given experience that perhaps they understand way better than we do. I'll give you an example. Actually, before I came here, I was meeting with a new client who is producing a product that he's importing from another country, and he wanted some help with import duties and how you go about the logistics process and that sort of thing. And you know, I found some people who might be able to help inside SCORE, but then I realized that there's another client right here on the Vineyard who is doing exactly that. So we just had a cup of coffee this morning, and our old client helped our new client, and I just brought them together and watched. And so what we want to start doing more of is bringing different entrepreneurs together and letting them help each other in a peer-to-peer way, in a way that we can facilitate, but it's a multiplier for our own experience and our own skills.
Oh, that's super great. And are you thinking of maybe doing some like social mixers to get some of these clients who they haven't maybe worked together, but they know of each other and they can just kind of feed off of each other's business knowledge?
Yeah, we haven't quite figured out exactly how we're going to do it. We've talked about social mixers. We've also talked about maybe just kind of creating panel discussions, panel forums. So that's kind of in the process of what's the best way to do it.
Like a round table.
A round table. Like, for example, I mentioned we have a lot of food service clients. So we could perhaps sponsor a roundtable on the restaurant business, or something like that. Or another one we've been talking about is a roundtable just on how to obtain a business loan. And we could bring in some of our clients and maybe get involved with get one of the banks here on the island involved with doing that. So it's all about kind of connecting the community, which has not really been something we've focused on in the past.
So that's part of what's next and part of the vision for the organization. I love that. That's awesome. Tom, do you have anything else you'd like to add? Or I feel like we've covered covered quite a lot.
Yeah, I just want to thank you again for the opportunity to do this. It's really very gracious of you, and we're glad to get the message out.
Thank you, Tom. We are so happy that you decided to be with us today. It's fascinating learning everything about SCORE. I personally did not know a lot about the organization, and so this has been enlightening, and I hope that people really, really reach out to you. And how can people reach out to you? How can they contact you?
Great question, and I'm glad you asked that. So we have a website. It's very simple. It's www.score.org/Cape Cod. You can go on there. At the very bottom of the homepage is the directory of webinars that I spoke about. And you can also, if you would like some mentoring help, you can view the profiles of our Cape and Islands mentors on there. And you can request a mentor. If you find a person that you think you resonate with their background, you can request them. If not, just request a mentor and we'll figure out who we think the best mentor for you would be.
That's awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much again. Thank you so much for being with us for this week's edition of Vineyard Spotlight. We hope to see you next time.